Welcome back to another episode of Purpose Partners for Life. This episode, we're going to talk about childhood trauma and the impact that that can have on your life. Quick raise of hands. Have you experienced any childhood trauma in your upbringing? I reckon you'd be hard pressed to find anyone that hasn't experienced any kind of trauma. And it's very important to start off with not diminishing your own experience of trauma, because we meet incredible people all the time that say, you know what, Laban, I had the best childhood growing up. And it's funny, the people that share this often end up revealing something that they seem quite innocuous or benign that ends up being really negatively impactful on their own upbringing. And what are the ramifications of not addressing the trauma that happens when you are growing up in those formative years?
Have you ever experienced any kind of trauma, whether it's a verbal abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse,
alcoholism, drugs,
growing up in dysfunctional family,
abandonment, adoption, foster homes?
Have you ever experienced any of those? And you've never told it to anyone because you literally had no one to talk about this, and you don't know how to deal with that, and you can feel that it really impacts your adulthood life, then this episode is for you. And in this video, we are going to share our stories and how we overcame some childhood traumas and turn it into a superpower.
And we'll go into more detail of what that was later in this episode. For me, it was nothing more innocuous than being a child of divorce. And when my mum and dad split up when I was 3.5, the ensuing custody battles and the leverage that the parents used against each other to try and hurt themselves had a really negative, toxic effect on me personally and my two siblings. Now, what happened as a result is, and particularly being the middle child, I developed a lot of the similar traits that Anna developed, but I was also trying to fix everyone, and I was also trying to keep the family together. And a lot of that falls into the boundary setting issues as well. And the unfortunate thing about developing these behaviors is, as helpful as they might seem at the time, they end up being really destructive and really, really dysfunctional when it comes to our own adult lives. If you don't get a great role model or a great example of how to do something functionally, my advice to you is you have to learn how to do it functionally. So for me, as part of my healing journey, I went through unlearning and then relearning the functional way to do it. And it doesn't need to be perfect, but once you get to a point where you are what we call consciously incompetent, you know that you don't know. That's a really powerful place to begin. And that's really the whole purpose of this channel. We want to create an environment where people can go, oh, yeah, like the aha moment, like I didn't realize I was exhibiting that kind of negative behavior. And later on in these episodes, we want to talk about how you can turn those shitty experiences into your superpower. Because the important distinction, right, is that we don't want to ever come across like we're operating from a place of victimhood. Very rarely is it our fault with a lot of these childhood things, but it is our responsibility. And that's a really key distinction, I think. Now, both Anna and I live the life that many people dream about. We get to live in alignment with our gifts from the universe or God or whatever your relationship with the spiritual realm is. And we get to serve and we get to help many, many people in the work that we do by being able to share our stories without any shame, guilt, or any other toxic-based feeling. And once you give your story power and you give it message, it loses the dominion and it holds no dominion over you. And the more you share your story from a place of strength, the more healing I think you do. Well, I don't even need to think. I know from my own experience. So
my story started when I was 4 years old, when my biological father abandoned our family and never returned back. My younger brother was just 9 months old. And I remember it was so hard for us, physically, emotionally, mentally. financially. I had to grow up very fast. I had to look after my brother. And by the way, Laban is holding my hand.
At least I
It's
can do.
okay. It's okay.
I'm okay.
6 years later, my mom met my stepfather, and we thought, finally, we have a protector, we have a support in our family. But soon we found out how horribly abusive, manipulative, and controlling this man was. He was an army guy, and he ruled our family with an iron fist. My brother and I quickly learned how to walk on the eggshells and obey every single rule, because not obeying the rules just wasn't worth it. I would come from school and I would spend 4 hours cleaning the apartment, trying to make sure that everything is on its place and spotless, because I knew my father would come home. I learned how to read him before even he enters the apartment. And if he's in a good mood, it would be wonderful and amazing night. If he's in a bad mood, he would find any reason to hit you, to abuse you, verbally, mentally, and physically. And
How
just
often did he
unleash.
come home in a good mood?
I would say in a good mood, it would be 25, 30%.
So a pretty
all the
stressful
time.
amount of 75, 80%.
But the thing is, he could come home in a good mood, but then something would happen and something he wouldn't like, and he would turn completely into the demonic person, like within a second.
Can I add something as well? We will explore these topics in much greater detail as the show progresses. But with regards to the stepfather, we came to learn years later that he grew up in a very, very abusive relationship.
Okay.
I just want to bring it in real quick, because as part of this whole journey, we want to create the awareness for people to break the intergenerational trauma. So from generation to generation to generation, and you might be in a situation right now where you are jack of it. You've had enough, and you've just witnessed it with your great-grandparents, depending on how old you are, grandparents, parents, and your own children as well. And you're like, I've had enough of this. So if you're resonating with some of this, this is going to help tremendously. Continue, darling. Let me interrupt.
Thank you. And when we would cry, my stepfather liked to smash our heads against the wall, so we stopped crying. It's very important moment, because you will understand it later on in the story. When I turned 15, that's when the sexual abuse started. Being conditioned of following the rules, following whatever my stepfather would tell me, because he was a man in our family and he would know everything better than I or my mom or my brother. One of the main points is my mom couldn't stop his tyrannical parenting, because back in Russia, it was very shameful to be a single mother of 2. And so she put him on pedestal, let him do whatever he wants, just so we're not losing a father. And when sexual abuse started, he threatened me with my mom's and my brother's lives. And knowing what he's capable of, I believed him. Later on, he would insert a lot of shame in me, that it was my fault, that if I tell my mom, she's gonna hate me and expel me from the house. And it was the worstest thing for me to lose my mom, because I loved her more than anything. The abuse had been happening for 6 years, which resulted in 2 pregnancies and in 2 forced illegal abortions without any follow-ups. When I was growing up, every time I would start fighting back, he would unleash all his rage on my mom and my brother. And I felt like I was responsible for what is happening in my family. I was trying to protect them. But then when I was 21, I realized how dark and heavy and lonely this place was to carry such a huge burden. I didn't realize that it was traumatizing me because I used to be a strong girl, just suck it up and move on. And so that's what I did with my sexual abuse as well, just suck it up and move on. But at 21, I became really suicidal. I didn't want to do this anymore. And I told my parents, I'm going to move out. I just started my new job. I was earning some money and I wanted to get out. It was my third trial when I was trying to get out. When I left the house, he literally threw my mom on the street. Later on, I met my ex-husband and I moved to Australia. And I thought, finally, I got out of this horrible nightmare. But what I didn't realize is that I literally married my stepfather.
As well. And I know we're talking about some really heavy stuff. And even you might be sitting there going, oh, Laban's handling this very well. We've done a lot of work on this. And don't get me wrong, like you wouldn't want to leave me in a room with this guy. But we'll talk about the power of forgiveness. But it's super important that we share this as honestly and vulnerably as possible for you. Because when you see someone as beautiful as Anna being able to share this from such a place of strength, you notice she's not breaking down and crying. She's not anyone that bottles things up anymore. She's not anyone that puts her own feelings second or third. And it's part of this incredible journey that we've been on. So just bear with us if you're listening to this and it's heavy. We are sharing this from a place of strength. I promise you that.
But my ex-husband being this way was actually the greatest blessings in the sky, Laban, because otherwise I wouldn't meet you.
Ding, ding, ding. Can you make a little diamond thing come out of my teeth?
And when I met Laban, he was, his honesty, like when I met you, you told me, Anna, you can ask me anything you want.
As long as you're happy to hear the answer. And I developed that about a year and a half earlier. I read a book by Mark Manson called Models, Attracting Women Through Honesty at night. And I, in my previous relationships, there was lots of white lies and a few big ones too. That wasn't working out very well for me. So,
and oh God, I took him up on this.
She claimed every one of those opportunities. And that was some heavy stuff because, I lived a life. And if you want to learn more about my own journey, you can read the book, which is called Bet on You. We'll put the link in the chat here as well. And it's available on Audible and My Dulcet Tones if you like listening to books. But
what it did, it provided me with such a strong base and foundation for our relationships. I felt like I can trust this person. I felt like he created this safe environment where everything is built on honesty and openness and vulnerability. I was surprised how vulnerable he could be with me and other people. This really helped me to open up because when we got together, my most cherished dream was to become a mom and to build a family. We had 15 consecutive miscarriages together, and I had 4 miscarriages with my ex-husband. I saw how much Laban wanted to be a father. At those moments, I decided to tell Laban my story and what was happening with me as a young girl. And that's when my memories started to come up again. I remember having some memory flashes back, and I started to cry. But because I learned how to stop my tears from coming out, I started to smashing my head against the wall to stop crying. And that's when Laban caught me.
Yeah, that's one way of stopping yourself crying, I suppose, isn't it? Probably one of the most intense, scary moments of my own life, seeing this person that we've been together for a year and a half, the woman of my dreams, willingly hurting herself. And I just grabbed her in this trauma. I'm much stronger than Anna. In fact, I'm much stronger than most people I know. But I grabbed her in such a strong embrace that she could not leave. But it was with the warmth of 1,000 lovers. And I just held her and allowed her that space to just, I think from memory, you started bawling your eyes out and started this healing journey.
I told you, and at those points, I decided I have to tell him. It's not fair to keep such a secret from a man who
and
is...
she knew all of my secrets too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not secrets anymore.
I've realized that it's not fair to keep such a secret from him. The secret that is preventing him to become a father. I remember a couple of days later, we were driving in the car. You were telling me about your mom. She was...
Yeah, Mum and I used to have a very unhealthy relationship, and I was whinging to Anna about how annoying my mum was and how painful she was to be around and to speak to.
And I just couldn't I couldn't listen this anymore. In a moment of like anger and disappointment, I just blur out that your mom is a saint compare my stepfather. And at this point, I got scared. I was like, oh, but what have I done?
And bear in mind, at this point, Anna had made reference to her stepfather growing up and how verbally abusive he was and how much of a tyrant he was, but she'd never let on about the sexual abuse. And at this stage, we had an ectopic pregnancy, which was the first time we consummated the relationship 2 or 3 months after we met, that nearly killed Anna. And then we kept having these miscarriages, and I was trying to come up with a solution about how we could fix this. Unbeknownst, Anna was carrying this horrendous secret burden.
Laban started asking me more and more questions. He didn't really let it go, but he leaned in and he said, Anna, what is happening? What do you mean? What your stepfather was doing to you? Why are you saying that? And in this moment, I felt, or now or never. And I told him about sexual abuse. You were so shocked. You didn't expect that, right?
I don't think I expected it, because I would have liked to have thought myself back then as a pretty good read on people. You never once gave anything away that insinuated that was the case. And I had asked you, and we had this agreement about honesty as well. So I took a lot of that on face value.
And I can tell you, the longer you keep the secret, the harder it keep it inside. It becomes like a cancer that is eating you from the inside and creating this huge shadow over your light. The sexual abuse was holding me back from so many things. A lot of shame, a lot of pain, a lot of anger were internally destroying my soul. And I haven't realized it until just a few years ago when I started releasing everything. And I remember when I told Laban, I'm so grateful to you that you reacted the way you reacted. Your reaction was the one that I was hoping for.
Well, how was that? Because this is helpful to know if you're a husband or a boyfriend in this situation as well. This was more an intuitive response, so I can't lay claim that I'd practiced any of this stuff. But what was your experience with how I reacted?
I can't remember what was it, but you made me feel so warm. It's okay, baby. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry for what's happened to you.
Like, I think there was like, we'll get through this. Like, we'll get through this together. I'm with you.
I'm with you. I have your back. I know not many people would have such a reaction from their partners or parents or family members. And I think if the family members are listening to this video, if someone opened up to you, please never blame, never ask questions. why, how,
How come you
when,
didn't speak up? How come you didn't do this? How come you didn't do that? And I just want to interrupt a little bit for context. When Anna told me about what had gone on, there was a huge sense of relief because I had a lot of intuitive feelings about why the challenges around the baby and stuff. Because if you remember the forced illegal abortions that Anna went through in Russia, one of which damaged her uterine wall and has been linked to the miscarriages. So it was getting that understanding. I remember this overwhelming sense of, oh, I get it now. It makes so much sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it allowed me to trust my intuition even more. It allowed me to trust my spidey senses, or whatever you want to call them, because I knew something wasn't quite right subconsciously, but I was basing it on the information that I had available at the time. And then that was the final Lego block in the toy. And I was able to, or the final piece of the puzzle for me. And then I could start helping make more informed decisions. And just on that real quick, in terms of the last thing that you want to do is what Anna's talking about, like the blame game and why do you speak up? There's a number of reasons why they don't, by the way, with victims in this situation. But it was more around like, now we can start the healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can start this journey of getting over this, because we've got no option but to get over this.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I didn't tell everything to Laban, because I was simply afraid to lose him. I had no idea how he's going to react. I had no idea whether he is ready to hear such a thing or whether he wants to be with me. And you know what? Even if he would leave me, probably we wouldn't be for each other.
Yeah, if your significant other responds in a really shitty negative way, you probably just found out a lot quicker than you would have otherwise that they are not the person for you. That's very, very important distinction. This may be a hard thing for people to hear as well, because if you are, particularly if you've been in a marriage or relationship for a long time, you've got family together, I'm not saying rush out and go and get divorced, but like you need to seriously work out the levels of emotional intelligence that person has to see whether they can handle it. Because the last thing you need is someone who is unable to be able to handle that knowledge and that responsibility, particularly if they don't have any skills and resources on how to move forward with it, you know.
For those who is still afraid to open up and share their stories, and I swear, God, it is important. Otherwise, it's like a cancer. It's gonna eat you from the inside, and it will always hunt you until you start hunting this. If you feel like your loved ones, your family are not ready to hear this, or you are not ready to tell them, find someone you trust. Find someone who went through a similar situation, someone who knows what you are going through, and start the healing journey with the support of those people, not your family, because you have to be ready emotionally and physically for any sort of reaction of your family. And when you go through the healing journey, their reactions, their words will impact you less and less and less and less, because you will find someone who will always support you and have your back. Just back to the story, when I told Laban, he helped me to step on a healing journey. And it's because of him I was able to finally share my story with the world. And I've tried everything possible, like counselors, psychologists, shamans, NLP specialists, psyche specialists. And what really helped me is hypnotherapy. And Laban, you put me through a hypnotherapist, and I'm forever grateful to you for it. And I
can't kiss it super properly at the moment. I got a medicine ball on my lip, so I don't have collagen filler. It's just I got punched by a medicine ball at the gym yesterday. Is it better?
Mm-hmm. Is it better? And during the hypnotherapy, that's where I really faced my deepest, darkest. That's where I really experienced the most deepest, the most powerful healing ever. And that's when I was able to forgive my biological father for leaving our family, my mom for not being able to protect me and for being so weak, and my stepfather for doing this to me. And most importantly, I was able to forgive myself.
She forgave her stepfather. Can you effing believe it?
So the point, the reason I'm telling you this story is because no matter what you have gone through or what you are going through, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. There is always something that you can do to help you to start living the life of your dreams and to meet the partner of your dreams.
So thank you for watching another episode of Purpose Partners for Life. Stay tuned, subscribe if you want to get all the new videos when they come out. Give it a like or a comment if it's something that resonates with you. And we will be sharing lots of different subjects that all relate to attracting the person of your dreams and how you can blow up in the best way possible your business, your health, your relationships by having someone that truly supports, believes, and loves your ass as well. Big, very important thing.
See ya.